Welcome everyone to Entrepreneurship Live. My name is Amanda Golden and I'm the Assistant Director of the Herb Kelleher Entrepreneurship Center, where we encourage the development of entrepreneurial skills and support the exploration of the ways those skills can be applied to careers as founders or innovators within established organizations. Entrepreneurship Live is our speaker series where audience members can gain live insights into the entrepreneurial process. Tonight, we will be featuring a discussion between Dr. Louis Martins and Jay Steinfeld. We will be taking questions from the audience this evening, and I'm going to give you instructions for how to submit your questions. So if you go to slido.com and enter the code #AskJay, you can submit questions for Jay, and then towards the end of this evening's discussion, we will be asking him some of those questions submitted from the audience. Alrighty, we're going to go ahead and get started. So Louis Martins is the director of the Herb Kelleher Entrepreneurship Center, and he holds the Herb Kelleher Chair in Entrepreneurship and the James B. Goodson Professor in Business at the Macomb School of Business. He earned his PhD in Management and Organizational Behavior from the Stern Business School of New York University. And prior to joining UT Austin in January of 2010, he was on the faculty of the College of Management at the Georgia Institute of Technology. And before that, he was at the School of Business at the University of Connecticut. I think we have better winters here than Connecticut.
That was the point.
As founder and CEO of Blinds.com, Jay Steinfeld was an early mover in e-commerce. In 1993, he bootstrapped his website, built for just $1,500, and operated it from his garage into the world's #1 online Windows coverings retailer. In January 2014, Blinds.com was sold to the Home Depot when Jay continued for over 6 years to lead Blinds.com as its CEO and joined the Home Depot online leadership team. Blinds.com is known for its unique startup culture and has won numerous awards, including the best place to work in Houston, the top 5 workplaces in Texas, the AMA Marketer of the Year, National Call Center of the Year, and top 50 most engaged workplaces in America. Jay is an EY Entrepreneur of the Year and was awarded the Houston Technology Center's Lifetime Achievement Award. National Speaking Engagement Center on Corporate Culture, Core Values, Rapid Experimentation, How to Scale a Startup, Preventing Being Disrupted, and Maximizing Talent, all to create an organization of autonomous excellence. Published author of over 100 articles for CBS MarketWatch and Inc.com. Read his book, Lead from the Core, the four Principles for Profit and Prosperity, being published on November 30th, just in time for the holiday season. Great gift to pick up. Jay supports numerous charities and organizations that support helping people become better than they ever believed possible, including XPRIZE and Hand in Hand. Please help me welcome both Louis and Jay.
That was very long. But I do have an idea before you answer your question. The Slido, could I use that with my wife? The #AskJay before she asks me questions? That's such a good idea. I like it.
That way you can screen them before
Exactly.
you respond.
I can prioritize the questions.
Well, thank you, Jay, for joining us, and thank you all for being here. And those watching online, thank you for joining us as well. It's a real pleasure to have this opportunity to learn from you based on your experience starting up this company with literally $1,500 and then growing it into a very successful, not just successful in terms of finances, but successful in terms of developing people type of organization, all the way through selling it to one of my favorite companies, the Home Depot. So let's go back to that garage. Not something I say often, but tell us where the idea came from and how you went about vetting the idea and then building it into a successful business.
Okay. First, Louis, thank you for asking me to be here. It's a pleasure to be here. I went to UT. I lived in that building right there when actually people lived in that building. It was called Dobie. And people still live there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And the movie theater was there, except we did midnight movies because we didn't go to sleep until 2, 3 in the morning. So I just have got very fond memories of being here. I met my wife here too. And also I sing in a barbershop quartet from Longhorn Singers called the 40 Acre Four. So lots of UT connections. So the garage, and how did I come up with the idea? My wife was in the business of selling blinds. She had a store called Laura's Draperies, and her name was Naomi. And I had just been fired from my job at Meineke Discount Mufflers. I was a CPA, vice president of finance. Gotten fired, that's kind of a funny story and a sad story. But the short story is I had no job, and I thought, oh, I'm a CPA, perfect. I'll go into the blinds business. And I opened up another store. So we had 2 stores in Houston, which is where I live. And I'd heard about the World Wide Web. What is that? This was 1993. And I thought, okay, I'll bite, I'll give it a shot, and set up a Laura's.com website. Didn't have any e-commerce on it at all. All it was a basically brochureware. Just to it was really an experiment. What is this? What can I do? It's kind of like an ad. A Houston Chronicle ad would cost more than $1,500, so what did I have to lose? I was experimenting without fear for the possibility of just doing something new. Maybe I'd look cool in front of my customers, progressive. And that's how it all started. I had no vision as to what it could be. I had no vision what the internet was going to be. This is the year before Amazon even started. Amazon still hadn't even existed yet. No broadband. People didn't even accept credit cards online. It was early. So this little experiment just incrementally got bigger and bigger, and then I decided, now it's 5 years later. It's actually in 1996, after I saw, God, you can sell books online, Amazon, so maybe you can sell blinds. It seems like a great idea. Customers have to measure it. They have to install it themselves. They're not going to be able to see it. They can't see the color. They don't even know what product it is, and they don't even like paying online. So that seemed like a really good idea, and everybody told me it was the stupidest idea ever, and my manufacturers wouldn't even sell to me at the time. But again, it was just an experiment. What could I have to lose? And just built it little bit at a time, one customer at a time. I took all the calls from my car at the beginning, in between my appointments at Laura's Draperies, and eventually decided, you know what, I'm doing $1.5 million online with 2 people, and I'm doing $1.5 million in my store, and I'm spending like 7 days a week in my store and virtually no time online. So I'm thinking, this online stuff could be good. So I sold the store and went 100% online in 2001, and with a site to make buying blinds and shades a no-brainer. And it wasn't called Blinds.com. It was called No Brainer Blinds. No Brainer Blinds. We were the only ones, so we were the world's most popular and trusted online source for blinds, because we were the only ones doing that. And we built it from there. Just hired a few people, hired 7 people, experimented again, evolved, and unbeknownst to me, it's become like we're doing like over $1 billion. It's unbelievable. And luckily I'm not there anymore. I just stepped away last year, and they're doing way better without me, which is a great thing.
That's a remarkable story, and you started off as a CPA, and when CPAs experiment a lot, sometimes it ends up the wrong way.
Yeah.
But can you tell us about what you took from your training in accounting and the CPA experience that helped you in terms of building a good business, a sound business, as you grew Blinds.com?
Right. Well, I got my BBA in accounting from UT. And so why did I do that? Well, I knew I always wanted to go into business, and I interviewed in high school successful business people. And I said, what should I study in order to be a good business person? And almost every one of them said, you need to know the numbers. You have to be good at numbers. So I said, okay, I'll be an accountant. I hate accounting. I really do. I mean, I've never enjoyed it. I worked for KPMG for a couple of years. It was a miserable job. Auditing, I mean, you're counting other people's money. What good is that? So I didn't like it. Some of you may be accounting majors, and it's great. But for me, you know, it was a good job at KPMG. It was exactly the dream job that I wanted. And I was making $12,500, so that was a lot of money. But that's why I went into accounting, because I felt like I could do that first and then go ultimately into business. And definitely understanding balance sheets and finance and numbers is great, but what's really good is people perceive me as being smarter than I am because of my BBA in accounting. And they go, well, he's not just some reckless entrepreneur who's got these crazy ideas and vision. He actually knows numbers, so we'll trust him more. And it really helped me a lot to have the accounting degree and the CPA moniker.
So I'm thinking maybe all our accounting majors should minor in entrepreneurship, and we have an outstanding minor in entrepreneurship for our undergraduates.
I think it's a good balance. I think you should put some philosophy in there too, seriously.
Yeah, I'll call the chair. He has to promote this first. So you build this business. It's a remarkable ride. And mind you, in a time when a lot of other dot-coms have gone bankrupt and done all sorts of crazy things that, let's say, were opportunities to learn lessons for themselves and for others. But you were very successful. And then come 2014, you build this large Blinds.com business, and you sell it to the Home Depot.
Yeah.
That must have been difficult. I can't imagine that was an easy decision. How you know?
You mean whether I should sell the
Yes.
company to Home Depot?
No, whether to sell it and whether
Give up my baby?
Right.
Yeah, well, those are two different decisions. My baby was for sale. I mean, I knew it was always for sale because I took in some investment. I had some minority shareholders at the beginning of kind of a friends and family seed round, about $600,000 early, not a lot. And then I took some capital minority raise in 2012. This is like 16 years later. And the only reason I did that was to buy out some of my two stockholders who were completely misaligned with me wanting to grow the company. And then 2 years later, we sold it. Was that a hard decision? No. I mean, Home Depot had a lot of money. And that was the decision. I mean, we knew we were going to sell it. They offered way more than we were expecting, and done. Yes, we will do that. How do you not do that?
Good point.
Yeah.
And with that accounting degree, they would have banished you if you hadn't.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know how the world works, but I'm
one
guessing
of-
so.
There is a psychological aspect of it. And somebody said, well, and then I stayed on at Home Depot for almost 7 years.
Right.
Here's a founder who's starting the company who has complete independence and autonomy. And then I'm staying with Home Depot where I'm working for all these people and all this bureaucracy and hierarchy. How did I manage all that, which is another question. But ultimately, I knew at the beginning when I took capital that ultimately one day I was going to sell the company. And then we had a board of directors. And when you have a board of directors, you're giving up some of the control to your board. There's governance that you must do. So at the time, I didn't even have a majority stake. So I already didn't have control, technical control, but I had practical control because the company couldn't exist without me building it and nobody wanted me to leave. So I'd already gotten used to the idea that I've got investors, I've got a legitimate board with governance that I had to get approval. You have customers, and I've had 500 employees. I'm giving up control to them too. So then when Home Depot, actually Lowe's came first, and then Home Depot came right behind them, it really was an easy decision. I'd already actually stopped the No Brainer Blinds website. People thought I would never give up No Brainer Blinds because that was the original site. But no, it had to go. I mean, its time was in the past.
Nice. Yeah. And as you were building the business, one of the things that struck me is how much of yourself and your philosophy you poured into how you built it, how you design the various elements of this business. So the business side is one important aspect, but another important aspect is the culture you built there.
Yep.
Very focused on encouraging professional development, encouraging service. You have a running group, you have volunteer opportunities and
Yep.
things like that. How did you decide that culture would be something important in your success, and how did you go about building that culture?
Well, actually, it's a sad story. I didn't believe in core values, all that,
Management stuff.
well, not management stuff, that soft stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. The softer side, core values, purpose, mission, blah, 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 all that. All I knew was I was an accountant, and I micromanaged everybody. If they didn't do it 100% right, I found that 1% that wasn't good. I didn't encourage people. I didn't do any of that. I was not enlightened. I am completely transformed from how I started. So I started the company with none of that in mind, zero. Unfortunately, starting the company in 2001, after being married for 26 years, my wife passed away. So there I am thinking, what is my life going to be now? I've got 3 kids, young kids. I've just started this business. What makes me tick? How do I define success? How do I define happiness? I don't even know if I should go on. And I had to make some decisions. And those decisions were, I better get off my butt and figure this out. And what I did was I started reading about philosophy and about success and purpose and people's definitions of success and happiness, neuroscience, core values, mission, all those types of things. I still read about that. And realized I better start figuring out what it is that I really want. Why am I doing this? And I realized that there were some values that I had, and once I understood what those values were, I then applied them to the business, about experimentation, about evolving continuously, about speaking up and giving people a voice. And the fourth one is just having fun. It's super fun running a business, and it's super hard. But when you work super hard and you're evolving and you're getting better and all the stuff is resonating with people and you're building a legitimate workforce that's doing hundreds of millions of dollars, that is fun. And it took the death of my wife for me to come to that realization as to what it was about me that I needed to then apply to the business. And those 4 things are 4 E's, is what I call it, and that's what my book, Lead from the Core, is about. First is evolve continuously, experiment without fear, evolve, express yourself, and enjoy the ride, the 4 E's. And everybody knows that, and everybody knows that's how we are. It's not just some aspirational goals that we say this is what we want to do. This is the behavior that we do. We experiment, we try things, and we try to do things that no one's ever done before. And that's how just this small band of about 100 people beat Home Depot, beat Amazon, beat Lowe's, beat everybody. We have like a 75% share of the market online blinds. That is a lot of blinds. And now we're at Home Depot not only selling blinds, but we've integrated our technology that we built in Houston and are now selling decks and sheds and vanities and all these other custom configurable products. We are the center of excellence for configurables at Home Depot. Awesome, now I can leave. That's exactly what I've always wanted to do, but I couldn't do it without Home Depot. So my job was done and I'm ready to move on, and that's what I did last year.
Very inspiring. And, sticking with the soft stuff, one of your E's is express yourself, and you've encouraged your employees to be themselves and speak up. Let me quote you from an Inc. article.
Usually when people quote me, it's bad.
This one's nice.
Okay.
We want everyone to be engaged and to know their voice has an important role in the future of the company. Now, I've seen that kind of placard version of that expressed by many people, but we know from research that it's very hard to actually implement and do.
Yeah.
So we know a lot of leaders who say it, but very few who actually create an environment where that's actually possible. So what strategies and tactics did you use to facilitate employees speaking up, having their voice, and what benefits did you gain from developing these mindsets within the company?
Yeah, that's a good question. People have a tendency of not speaking up. They're afraid of looking stupid, of disagreeing with their boss publicly. You never disagree with your boss, right? You never make your boss look bad. Your job is to make your boss look good. But your boss is actually looking better when you give your boss information that conflicts with what the boss was about to do and make a mistake. So help your boss, help everybody by telling people what you really think. And look, it may not be right, but at least you feel like you've got some impact in the direction of not only the company, but the trajectory of your own life. That you're not just sitting back waiting for things to come. You have control. You're setting your destiny. You are now speaking up to help other people get better. And when people help other people, and everybody is speaking up for the benefit to help everybody else, you've got almost an autonomous excellence where the business is just automatically getting better because people are speaking up. And when people have a voice, they are less prone to leave because they've got some skin in the game. They know that they're being respected and that they're consequential and they're being significant to the future of everybody within the company. That feels good. And when you get a diverse workforce, then you've got diverse views. And getting diverse views means you're getting more data points. And you know, the more data you have on any decision that you're going to make, the better your decision. Again, it might be some outlier, but that outlier could be something that you say, wow, that's not a good idea, but it just sparked an idea about something that we've never thought of. That happened, I'm on a bunch of boards, and there was one this morning where we were talking about how to grow the company and how do you get two different competitors in the same market. And I said, well, have you thought about this and you thought about that? And he goes, oh my God, I can't even believe I didn't think about that, because this was completely contrary to the way he was thinking, and it sparked an idea that was right there and it was so obvious. And if you get everybody to do that type of thing, you have a better company. And people are growing as a result of that, and people are not stagnant. And they're feeling like, I'm growing, I'm not stagnant, and I want to stay here because I will continue to become better and better by being here, not going someplace else.
Excellent. And you mentioned diversity and inclusion. It's a big passion of ours at the Herb Kelleher Entrepreneurship Center to expand the surface area for entrepreneurship by promoting diversity and inclusion in entrepreneurship across UT, across the Austin entrepreneurial ecosystem, and beyond that. But diversity and inclusion are not exactly the same thing, right? So you can have a diverse workforce or diverse population in your organization, but not really have them be included. So let me quote from another one of your articles.
Okay.
It says, you say it isn't enough to simply say welcome and hope that everyone gets along. We grow because the diversity of opinions within our walls, because of the diversity of opinions within our walls. And we must be thoughtful in how we work through those differences. Now, one of the things that we know from research on diversity is that the range of opinions that you can get from a diverse workforce is the potential direct benefit that you have beyond the social benefits and all sorts of other aspects. But that requires actual inclusion, not just having these diverse perspectives, not just having a diverse workforce, but giving them voice and membership in the process.
Yeah.
How did you go about, what strategies did you use, what tactics did you use to make sure you fostered true inclusion rather than simply optical diversity?
Well, we didn't think about optical diversity. We just thought about getting diverse views. And it wasn't even about that as much as it was We want people who like to experiment. And we like people who like to have not only the propensity to improve, but that can demonstrate in their personal lives that they're already doing things to get better at anything. To be a cook, to be a pilot, to be a better parent, to quit smoking, to take courses, to read. Those are the people that we wanted. And that is not determined by color or race or anything. That's just determined by people. And the people who are thinking about getting themselves better and moving up are the kinds of people that we look for. And if it happened to be if you walk into the floors that we have, you'll see, wow, these guys are really diverse, super diverse. But it wasn't because we purposely were looking for percentages. Now, I will say, once we became part of Home Depot, those percentages did matter. Because you're a public company and you've got to talk about that. There was a time, though, as enlightened as it seems like I might be, and how I was thinking about this and not thinking about color, there was a time when we looked at our leadership team and we said, wow, there's no one of color, there's not a female on this group. And we said, how did that happen? So I must have had some bias there too. And when we made that conscious decision, there was like this amazement from everybody. Wow, they put Marsha Porcher on there, who's African American, and she said people were coming up to her and just high-fiving her and just loving the fact that she was now on the leadership team. So it did make a difference to morale, even though people love working there, but it does make a difference. And even when you're thinking that you're being unbiased, I think everybody is biased in some way. And unfortunately, you have to look at it and say, I know we don't think we are, but as I look around, maybe we are.
And you know, the interesting thing about biases is it operates in the deeper part of our brain, so we're not conscious about them. But if you're not strategic about it, it's easy to just go with the flow, and then you see these patterns that we've seen. But you raise a very important point that I'd like to highlight, which is not just the substantive benefits of diverse viewpoints and the like that come from increased diversity in the leadership team and the like, which there's evidence of, but also the symbolic aspects that people can see themselves as part of the organization and having their voice matter. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It also speaks to your character as a leader, and so I wanted to kind of turn to that now.
Okay.
You've distilled your insights from a distinguished career into a book that's coming out on November 30th, and apparently is one of the top gifts at the holidays, for the holidays.
That's what I hear.
According to somebody told me that
Yeah.
recently, yes. It's called Lead from the Core, the 4 Principles for Profit and Prosperity. You were kind enough to send me a draft to read, and I remember sending you feedback and saying, you know, I read a lot of books in draft form, and yours had the inspiration, it had the philosophy, it had the personal stories and the like. But what I really liked and I was thankful for is it's really a page turner. It's written like a novel, so it was a fast read. I was eager to see what came next.
Yeah.
So thank you for that from the perspective of just a reader.
Thank you. That's
so
nice.
I enjoyed that. Let's talk about the book a bit. You lay out 4 principles which are evolve continuously, like you said, experiment without fear of failure, express yourself, and enjoy the ride. How did you distill your insights? I'm guessing over the years you've had hundreds of thoughts about what leads to success as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as a person. How did you distill these into these 4 principles and decided to highlight these 4 in particular?
All right, so what I did not do is determine these are the things that if you do them, then you will be successful. I didn't do that at all. I didn't read about what other people's core values are and these are the top 4. What I did is determine what are my core principles. authentically what does make me tick, and those are the 4. Now, those were not the 4 at the beginning. Originally, there were 3, and only one of them remained. So every year, I would look at it and say, wait a minute, that makes no sense. One of them was pioneer, lead the way. No, I don't care about being a pioneer. I want to experiment, but I don't have to be first. I don't care about being first. I just want to get better. Oh, it's not really that. It's not even evolve. It was improved continuously, but that starts with an I, and I needed an E, so we moved it to evolve. But it didn't become evolve until maybe 5 years ago. Then we had another one, a 5th one at some point, that was to help people become better than what they ever believed possible. And that is true. That is exactly the core of what I did. That was my job, was to help everybody, all my associates, all my service providers, my stockholders. That was my job, my primary job, help people become better than what they ever believed possible. That's actually the purpose of Blinds.com, the stated purpose. So it became a 5th core value, but it got elevated into our actual purpose and then remained with 4 core values. So it wasn't that I decided those what they should be. It was I decided this is who I am, and I asked people, is this me? I think this is me. And they go, no, that's not you. Or yes, that is you. Or maybe it's more you with this. So it was over the years, like evolved continuously, they evolved as well. The words, it used to be, God, what were some of the other ones? It wasn't express yourself, it was individual expression. And what people thought that meant was you could basically dress however you wanted, which you could. They'd come in shorts and sandals and whatever. But that's not what it was about. It was truly about expressing yourself and being you and not trying to be who you thought I wanted you to be or who you thought other people wanted you to be. Just be you. Just be and say whatever you want, respectfully, politely, professionally, but say it. Be candid about it. And that's how it came about. It's just, this is who I think I am. Look, writing this book is exactly what those 4 principles are. I've never written a book before, so I'm experimenting. I had to rewrite it probably 20 times, and I had 7 editors. So that was a constant evolution, just learning how to do all this. So I remember I started this 4 years ago. So this has been an evolution as well. And of course I'm expressing myself. And turns out it's fun. And I've already sold a lot of copies, and the reviews have been great. So how fun is that? I don't have a full-time job, which is even better.
We'll add excellent to the E's, but we are partial to E's ourselves at the Herb Kelleher Entrepreneurship Center. E is the starting word for entrepreneurship. So
yeah.
Plus we have our own 4 E's for how we help students and other stakeholders develop the entrepreneurial mindsets and skills. Let me talk a little bit about, these are all wonderful to say, but when you're growing a person, it's not always easy conversations. Sometimes you have tough conversations. When people are trying and failing, sometimes you have to help them recover from that and things. And sometimes when you grow a person, they leave and go somewhere else where now you don't have the resource that you invested in. Tell us maybe a story or something that comes to mind of how you actually operationalize this, helping people grow, even if it meant that eventually they grew out of your organization.
Well, there's a lot in that question. There's a bunch of questions in there. I will focus on, we had resources that we helped people grow, and we didn't care if they were going to move out of the company. But they felt like, as a result of the fact that we truly cared on helping people become better than what they ever believed possible, and they knew that wasn't just some slogan, that we really did want to help them become better, and not about achieving more. It wasn't about them achieving more at the company. It was becoming a better person. Because when you become better, you can then do whatever you want to do. And we weren't afraid of people becoming so good that they would leave, even though we knew they would. We would talk to them in monthly one-to-ones and say, what are your goals? What do you really want to do later in life? And if they said, I want to leave and become a CEO, we would help them do that. And they would stay with us, and we would get so much more value by having this candid discussion with them. And people are afraid to do it. Now, I will say, as I look back on myself, I was pretty bad at that at the beginning, really bad. And my kids will tell me, Dad, will you just say it already? Just tell me what you want me to do. Because I wasn't clear. There were a lot of instances where I wasn't clear, and I think of one person in particular that it was really unfair to him that I wasn't clear, because he wanted to be CEO. And I told him he could, but deep down I was thinking, but I don't know that you really can. And I didn't tell him why. And that was definitely unfair. So you have to be clear, and you just have to ask, and you need to give people as much as you can. You don't look at somebody and say, I'm going to give them the least I can and see what I can get away with. Instead, you give them the most you can with training and responsibility and autonomy and a voice, things like that, and money. And then hopefully, and then look at it in the long-term best interests of your organization. And if you can give more, you're going to get so much more in return. Generosity, I think, is underrated.
I fully agree with you. I'm always surprised that more organizations are not run on those principles, but I guess it requires a certain philosophy. We've been fortunate to have the sort of glow of Herb Kelleher, who also practiced similar values. And you see how well he did with his business.
Sure.
And I'm not surprised that you had 75% of the industry. When you really commit to your people, they serve their customers better, and they serve their stakeholders.
And our turnover was 8%.
That's remarkable.
8%,
Yeah.
and that was consistently.
All right, so now let's transition a little bit to focusing on the students in our audience today.
Okay.
You are an alum of our business school. What lessons did you learn from your time, during your time on the 40 acres, that you still carry with you today?
Whoa, that's
Beyond the singing part.
Yeah, that's the first thing that I thought of.
You still do that.
It's actually the first thing that came to mind is the singing. Now I'm thinking about how I met my wife here. So I'm thinking personal stuff, not so much business things. I learned accounting. I learned how to be a CPA. I mean, that's the most direct answer I've got, and it was invaluable, as I said earlier today. I'm proud of being part of UT, and when I have that on my resume and when I talk about it, and it's in the book. I think the University of Texas is mentioned several times in the book, and I mention it proudly. So I think having a school that has honor and that has the resources and it's helped me do what I've been able to do, I think that's what it's taught me, is to maybe respect.
Excellent, and thank you.
You're welcome.
The last question I have before we open this up for Q&A. What's the biggest piece of advice you have for young entrepreneurs? What mistakes do you see them make? You spend a lot of time mentoring, you're on boards.
Yeah.
If there's one nugget they should take away?
Well, I also teach at Rice, at the Jones Business School, and the number one mistake that I see is people think they need to know everything before they start. And you'll never know everything before you start, because these are all, I'm sure you are all smart people and have done really well on tests and you get the right answer, but you can't know what the right answer is when you start. You're not going to have perfect information. And people believe that you have to have the right answer, and they're afraid to take that first step because they know they don't have the right information. They don't know what they don't know. They're afraid of inadequacies that they may have. They don't even know what their inadequacies are. They're afraid of the debt that they may have accumulated, so they can't take chances. So they're just afraid of doing anything, and you just have to start. And just start slow. You don't have to be all in. I don't think you have to be all in. You can be agile with your life as well as with technology.
That's a perfect summation and great advice. Remember, our motto at the University of Texas at Austin is, what starts here changes the world. And we've hijacked it a little bit for the Herb Kelleher Entrepreneurship Center, where we say, what starts up here changes the world. But it all has to begin with a start.
Right.
And thanks for highlighting that as an important first step. Let's take some questions from the audience now, and Amanda is going to read some questions from Slido for you.
All right, so our first question is, what were the biggest growing pains Blinds.com experienced, and how did you manage those growing pains?
Two come to mind. One, of course, was the death of my wife, which is like trumps everything. The second was IT. I'm not a technology whiz at all. I don't even know how to code. And it was a big deficiency for me because we're not a blinds retailer. We're a marketing company empowered by technology. You could actually say we're a technology company with a marketing perspective as well. And because I knew nothing about it, it was the worst part of growing the business at the beginning. And it wasn't until I realized that I didn't understand the process for developing technology for the software development lifecycle, that I brought somebody in who knew that, and finally we took control of it, and I was more confident, and I would then spend more money because I now had somebody in charge of technology to build something of substance, and that's when we built our own platform, which we called Autobahn because it would enable us to go really fast. And that's one of the reasons why we were able to get a high valuation to Home Depot, because of Autobahn. We built our own proprietary platform. And if it wasn't for Larry, and there's some really funny stories about Larry in the book, it's super funny. I've had someone read it and goes, I need to meet Larry. Larry's like my hero.
How can business schools help students develop the qualities and values that your company thrived on?
Look, I don't know about all business schools, but it does seem to me that the values, the purpose, the softer side is not talked about enough. There's, TAM and how do you develop product market fit and CAC and lifetime value, all that kind of discussion. Yeah, that's important. You need to know it. But understanding the angst and the purpose of why you're even doing it, if you don't know that, you're going to be in some dilemmas and you're not going to know what to do. In other words, are you thinking that you want to do this to control your destiny, or are you doing it for the money? And then when you were saying you want to raise money, say you were C round, an A round or something, you're going to be in a situation where it's going to be really hard to decide what to do, because you don't know, if you take this money, you may not be the CEO anymore. And if you want to control your destiny, you don't take the money. So what do you do? If you don't know that going in, you are going to be in a big dilemma, and it's going to be very confusing. So I think understanding purpose and why you're in business and what makes you tick and what the values are that you're aspiring to be and are needs to be talked about more. Philosophical things.
Absolutely. Do you have any regrets with your business that you would have done differently now, looking back?
That's an interesting question, and I'm going to first answer it philosophically and then specifically. Because the philosophical is really my right answer, but it doesn't seem to satisfy people. I am 100% satisfied with what happened with the business. 100%. I mean, it couldn't have happened. It couldn't have been a better outcome to be able to sell it for that much money, stay on for almost 7 years, be part of Home Depot, an amazing company. I have a personal relationship with the CEO, the CFO, the ex-CEO. Bernie Marcus. I mean, and I'm on 5 boards now. I am so grateful and blessed to be here. So what could I possibly want to have been happening differently? Anything that may have happened. All the things that I wanted to do that never happened, if any one of those things ever happened, maybe we never would have sold it. Maybe we wouldn't have been able to hire Larry. Maybe we would have been able to hire Daniel. Maybe I would have blown my relationship with those people or not been smart enough to help them become better. I can't think of it any other way, but I have no regrets about it. But I do have a regret in this way. I did spend a lot of time building the company after my wife passed away because I just threw myself into the business, and my kids did not like that. And they've let me know over the years, and now they're in their 30s, and we finally have gotten past that. So I have regrets about how I was in the amount of time that I spent in the business and how I didn't spend it with them. And that is a sincere regret. In fact, in the acknowledgement section of the book, I just say, I'm sorry.
What did you look for when you hired someone new, and how did you determine that they were a good fit?
Well, of course, you're looking for the skills, but that's kind of the easy part. You can interview people and find out if they've done the kind of job that you've done, that you want them to do, if you're clear about what you want them to do, and a lot of people are not. And then they don't ask the right questions. But assuming the person has the right skills to do the job that you want, fit is about values. And we wanted people who in their personal lives were improving themselves. So we looked for that. I'd ask the question, so tell me about some things you're doing right now in your life to get better at something. I'd say, tell me about some things in your life that you did that was a big experiment that you had no idea whether it was going to work out. How you traveled or you did something new. And if they could give me some good answers, they were probably going to get hired as long as they had the skills. And then the other thing we looked for was leadership ability. We wanted everybody to be able to move up if they wanted to. So we wanted people who were smart, who could be leaders, who fit the bill on skill, and then also had the core values. Those 4 things.
Okay, this will be our last audience question.
Okay.
After Blinds.com and now Lead from the Core, what's your next challenge?
My next challenge, got some personal challenges I'm not going to tell you about. Let's see. Well, if you're saying, well, like, what am I doing next? Yeah, I don't consider myself retired. I call it rewired, because I'm not going to stop, because I'm evolving. Anything that I can do to get a little bit better each day, anything I can do to take some chances and experiment and to have a voice and to have other people have a voice, and that is fun for me, I'm going to just keep doing it. I don't ever expect to just stop. I mean, retired for me means basically death. And I'm going to keep going. So I'm on 5 boards. The book, I've decided to build a house. We're in the framing stage, and we're building a house. Doing a lot of travel, spending a lot of time. I've got 7 grandkids, so those are my 7 startups. And I spend a lot of time with them. Yeah.
It's good you have connections at the Home Depot. Nowadays, it's hard to get materials to build a house.
I can't. I don't have any. I could probably get a compressor if I needed that.
There you go.
Yeah.
I have
Backup generator.
I have some friends too, and they're very nice. So, picking up on what you've been up to, you're serving on boards. You're also involved in community organizations and various councils and things. And thank you for being on the Herb Kelleher Entrepreneurship Center's Advisory Council. You've been a great member and have pushed us to operationalize those 4 E's in our own work, which we appreciate very much. Why do you think it's important for leaders from business who've had success in entrepreneurship and the like to get engaged with the community, give back to the community?
I think you're obligated to do it. I don't think that you have a choice. If you're doing well, you have an obligation to help people. And I have this idea that I want to help everybody around me get better. So it's natural for me and for our company to give to the community because they're just one of many stakeholders. We want to help our associates get better, as I said, the service providers, the accountants, the lawyers, the stockholders, and the community. And when you're set out to help everybody around you get better as well as yourself, the community is just there. So how do you not do it? You have to feel obligated a responsibility to everyone around you, and if you want to do that as your purpose, it's a natural thing to do. So I don't know how you can not help people. It just seems dismissive and ungrateful and mean.
Well, we'll clip that part and send it around to a few folks who'd like to engage some more. Thank you very much for your insights today. Very inspiring to hear your story. You're very direct and forthcoming in expressing not just the wins, but also the challenges. And I think that's simply wonderful. I appreciate your service to UT and your commitment to helping our students and other stakeholders pursue their entrepreneurial dreams, whether they be in a startup of their own or working in an organization that encourages entrepreneurship. So thank you very much. May I have a round of applause for